All right, example 2. Here we're using the diagram at the right. Again, these are four different scenarios. So again, I'm going to be using different colored pens that are erasable, so make sure that you have a way to erase as well. Number 3, if the measure of angle 1 is 53 degrees, then I need to find the rest of these. So I need to find the rest of all of these angles. So looking at this, before we continue on, I just want to point out that the measure of angle 3 is the same in all of these scenarios because of vertical angles. So the measure of angle 3 for all of these is actually going to be the same. And I'm going to use a non-erasable pen for this one because it's always going to be 90 degrees. And I know that because the marking between angle, or the marking between angle 1 and angle 5 is 90 degrees, showing that right angle. We know that all right angles are congruent. So for all of these, we already have the measure of angle 3. Very nice. So to find the measures of 2, 4, and 5, we have to get a little bit creative. I always try to find the ones that are congruent first. So if I go across from 1, I see that the measure of angle 4 is always going to be whatever the same that angle 1 is because they're vertical angles. So in this scenario, or this case, then the measure of angle 4 is going to be 53 degrees. I know that because vertical angles. Now to get the last bit. So 2 and 5 are also congruent, but I don't know exactly the degree measurement of those. To figure out what it is, I know that this angle 3, angle 2, and angle 1, so all of these 3 angles together, that forms a linear pair, which means all of those angles are going to add up to be 180 degrees. A lot of students have difficulty seeing that because when we say linear pair, usually we're talking about a pair of angles. But in this case, remember, you can add 2 angles together to get another angle. So if I add angle 1 and angle 2 plus angle 3, I know that it's going to equal 180 degrees. So I'm going to approach this by saying the measure of angle 2 plus the measure of angle 1 plus measure of angle 3 equals 180 degrees. But instead of writing the measure of angle 1, I'm going to write what the measure of angle 1 actually is in degrees. So 53 plus the measure of angle 2 plus 90 equals 180. So now if I combine like terms, 53 and 90 is going to be 143 plus the measure of angle 2 equals 180. Now I can subtract 143 from both sides. And I get the measure of angle 2 is equal to, if I subtract those off, 37. And then I know that that's degrees. So now that I know that this is 37 degrees, I know because of vertical angle theorem, this is also 37 degrees. Another way to also check is just to make sure that these two add up to be 90 degrees because I know that these 2 angles are congruent to these 2 angles because of this being 90 degrees and this being 90 degrees. So we have measure of angle 1. Measure of angle 2 is equal to 37 degrees. Measure of angle 3 is equal to 90 degrees for all of these. It's going to be that. Measure of angle 4 is equal to 53 degrees. Measure of angle 5 is equal to 37 degrees. Notice that I have my degree symbol on all of these as well. I do need to erase. Again, I'm using an erasable pen for the next one. So again, the thing to note is that there are angles here that are vertical, so it's really easy to see which ones are going to be congruent to one another if I follow that. What I would recommend doing at this point is now pausing the video and going through the other ones to see if you were able to find the rest using that information that I gave for number 3. So now measure of angle 2 is 34 degrees. Again, that tells me what the measure of angle 5 is. That's also 34 degrees. And now knowing that 1 and 4 are vertical angles, I just need to find one of them. And I know, because we talked about it previously, that the measure of angle 2 and 1 needs to be 90 degrees. So I have the measure of angle 1 plus measure of angle 2, which is 34 degrees. And I'm going to go ahead and I usually drop the degree symbol here so that I don't make a mistake and think that it's a 0. It's totally different if you get 340 degrees versus 34 degrees. equals 90. So now if I subtract 34 from both sides, the measure of angle 1 equals 90 minus 37 is 53. So I have the measure of angle 1 equals 53 degrees. And then I don't need to find the measure of angle 2 because it gave it to me. Oh, I forgot to write it in here. 53 degrees. 53 degrees. So the measure of angle 1, measure of angle 2, now the measure of angle 3, it's the same for all of these. It's always 90 degrees. Measure of angle 4 is equal to 53 degrees. Measure of angle 5 is 34 degrees. Now, again, erasing, but I can do number 5. So number 5, let's see, so we have this one is 39 degrees. That means 2 is also 39 degrees. That means the measure of angle 1 plus 39 is equal to 90. So now I'm going to subtract 39 from both sides. Minus 39. So I get the measure of angle 1 is equal to 61 degrees. 61 degrees. So now I have the measure of angle 1 is equal to 61 degrees. Measure of angle 2 is equal to 39 degrees. Measure of angle 3 still hasn't changed, and it won't this entire video. Measure of angle 4 is equal to 61 degrees. All right, and then the last one. So this one gives me information a little bit differently. So I can't use the exact same techniques to solve. Feel free to, as always, try them on your own and then see if you can get what we got. So now, this one says the measure of angle 4 plus the measure of angle 3 is 144 degrees. So let's go back. Measure of angle 3 is 90 degrees. So what I'm really saying is the measure of angle 4 plus 90 degrees is equal to 144 degrees. So if I subtract 90 off both sides, what I find is the measure of angle 4. So the measure of angle 4 in this particular problem is going to be 54 degrees. Going back to my picture, my diagram, that means this is 54 degrees. Measure of angle 1 is 54 degrees. Now I have enough information that I can then solve just like we were doing earlier. With the measure of angle 1, so 54 degrees, plus the measure of angle 2, equaling 90. So subtract 54 off both sides. You get the measure of angle 2 is equal to 36 degrees. So the measure of angle 1 is equal to 54 degrees. Measure of angle 2 is equal to 36 degrees. Measure of angle 5 is equal to 36 degrees. There we go. Join me in the next video as we talk about example 3. Have a wonderful day.